Welcome, everyone, to this weekly live radio show at KCRW 100.7 FM in lovely, sunny, coastal Brookings, Oregon. Thank you for tuning into this week's fun and informative program of Doc and Jacques. I'm Dr. GiGI, and I'm sitting next to my co-host, San Francisco Jacques. How are you?
Hello, Dr. GiGI, and good afternoon to our guest, Scott Shaw, today, and to all the loyal and new listeners out there. You mean everything to us by listening to the show, either streaming or live. We appreciate you. Welcome to the Doc and Jacques Radio Variety Show. Today is, I wasn't going to say the dates anymore, so that later on we could rerun these things and people won't know that it's past. But today's date is, should I lie? No, I won't. Today's date is January 29th, and it's National Corn Chip Day. Are you kidding?
Yeah, and let's add some salsa and do some puzzle because it's also National Puzzle Day.
Okay, a puzzling corn chip day. You know, corn chips are not good for you.
I know,
found that out now.
I didn't choose. So they're the only two national days today, so I couldn't choose anything
corn
better.
is the most like GMO'd of all vegetables, and it's horrible what they do. But we are addicted to them. We are addicted to them. We're addicted to our corn chips. I used to be, at least. All right, Doc, what do you have for us today? And it goes well with our guest, Scott Shaw.
Yes, it does.
He's a home inspector. What are you talking about today?
Today we'll talk about the asbestos issue.
What? I got a breathing mask on. Asbestos?
Yeah, so you might say, what is asbestos?
What is asbestos, dear doctor?
Well, it is a group of different heat-resistant, naturally occurring fibrous silicate. Wow. Now you're saying, what is silicate? Well, silicate is a silicon with 4 oxygens on it. So anyway, they occur naturally, and you can go and take it from the mountains and do whatever, and you can weave it into fabrics, and it is used into fire-resistant and insulating materials such as brake linings.
Okay. Growing up, I was a welder. I loved welding. Dad had oxyacetylene from Union Carbide, who he worked for, and I got to weld a lot. I was born with and he used to have the big rolls. They were like carpet rolls of asbestos, and then you could lay that down. You could cover your hand. You could do whatever you were doing. Oxyacetylene, it prevented you from getting any heat or whatever. Ooh, it was amazing. Wow. Yeah. So that means I was exposed to a lot of it.
Yep, you probably did. You were.
I'm healthy.
So now we're saying, why is it bad? Well, I'll tell you, because when we breathe it in, did you breathe it in?
I inevitably did, I'm sure.
It can be bad for our lungs. So diseases associated with asbestos are asbestosis.
Wait a minute, did you say duh?
Bronchial lung cancer and mesothelioma. I think mesothelioma is what people know.
Okay, now what is mesothelioma again?
Well, that's a cancer of the mesothelial... mesothelial cell lining, which is, I won't even mention.
Is it a bad cancer?
Yeah, it is so rare, actually. It's very rare.
Sorry.
So it is a certain cancer, but that's mesothelioma is what people know. So let me expound a little bit. Asbestosis is when you have a general fibrosis or scarring. Fibrosis is scarring of the lung due to exposure to asbestos dust, what you breathe in, right?
Oh, boy.
It can lead to shortness of breath, cough, wheezing, and chest tightness.
Okay, for all of our listeners out there, quick, spell the word asbestos. Or is it asbestos or is it asbestos?
Asbestos.
Okay.
Asbestosis is a dose-dependent pathology, meaning it depends on how much you breathe in, the more you get the disease, apparently, or supposedly. The weird thing is it has a very long latent period, meaning you do your inbreathing of the asbestos and nothing happens till like 10 to 30 years later. Okay,
so the big ones you hear about people getting asbestosis is the naval soldiers, military, because they work with a lot of it, I guess, and they used to at least.
Right. So, as I said, the more the exposure, the earlier the onset. So now let me tell the story. Asbestosis is often found in construction or shipping industries.
Oh, I did not read ahead of you. We're not on
So
script
especially
anymore.
during repairs, demolitions, and automotive brake and clutch repair work.
Something we'll find out from Scott.
Right. He's probably having to breathe in some
I bet he's
asbestos.
painted it because he was a painting contractor before. I'll get to that.
The incidents, listen to this, Mr. Every Smoker or Mrs. Smoker out
I
there.
was a former smoker.
I'm
I
not
don't
talking
smoke.
about you. I'm
Okay.
talking about people who
Okay.
smoke and get the asbestos in. The incidence of asbestosis is much higher in people who also smoke because the smoke in cigarettes also harms the lung tissue, and so the scarring and the inflammatory process gets multiplied. It's not just additive, it's a multiplication of.
Wow.
So, of it. So if you think about it, that asbestos alone can increase the damage to the lung sixfold. Now, if you smoke in addition to that, it's like 20-fold.
Right.
50-fold.
As you know, you were witness, I quit smoking just before we came in the studio today. Not really. I'm not a smoker.
Asbestos stopped being manufactured in the U.S. since the 1970s.
Great. And that's when I was welding in the 70s.
Except for also 2002, depending on the sources that you look at. That was quite the span, right?
Wow.
Now, asbestos use is restricted in the United States and Canada. However, if you think globally, asbestos is banned in places like Australia, Japan, South Africa, Europe. They put the Europe as a
Did you do any deep research and find out what is it could be woven, it could be it could be
It
the
is
siding of
silicone.
houses, right?
Yeah, it's silicone with 4 oxygens on there, and they come in little strings, and you can, depending actually on the length of the little crystals.
Oh, folks, she's getting excited.
I
She starts
know,
talking the
I'm-
chemical structure.
I
She's a
know.
DNA, patented DNA
I knew you
researcher.
wouldn't want to
She
hear
loves-
that part.
She loves her chemistry. This one.
So listen to this.
Okay, what do you got?
About 410,000 people were exposed to asbestos, to a huge amount of asbestos, when 400 tons of the asbestos was released following the collapse of the Twin Towers
What?
on 9/11.
Oh, when were the Twin Towers originally built? So they had asbestos in there, and then everybody breathed that dust. as they
Yeah,
collapsed?
and so
Oh, my
especially the ones that work there, they participate in the rescue, recovery, and cleanup. They are
Right.
in the and now, if you think about it, it's now 24 years. So this is the time when the damage would actually come out.
So just from that just that huge exposure,
Yeah,
right? Breathing in that days, the fumes and the dust and the particulates in the air that you would have brought into your lungs has starting to pay grim
yeah.
rewards today.
Yeah.
Wow. So sorry to hear that.
Last but not least, so asbestos can lead to especially bronchial lung cancer or at all lung carcinoma. So it doesn't give you lung cancer, can give you lung cancer. So if you smoke, then you have a very, very high propensity to develop the cancer as well. And quite rare is the mesothelioma, which comes from the mesothelium, which is one
Right.
of the tissues in development. And it is very rare. There were about 3,000 new cases a
But
year.
I've heard of that. I've heard that they have those attorneys on the commercials. When they used to have
Yeah.
a TV, they'd say, if
Exactly.
you were exposed to asbestos in the naval shipyards, you could. So there's only 3,000 new cases a year, primarily in the United States, right? You said
Yeah, well, that's the study from the United
we're
States.
subject.
Yeah.
We're subject to that. Well, thank you for giving me some idea about what asbestos is. Doesn't seem like it's quite a nice material.
It's amazing to me. I did not know that it was a natural occurring.
But think about it. Okay, I had a home years ago in the valley, Central Valley, and it was all asbestos. And I had said, maybe in the 80s, and I said, well, I don't want that. And they said, just leave it on there. It's been painted
Right,
a bunch of
right.
So why would they use this? They said for two reasons. It's cheap. It was a cheap material to use for siding, and it's fire resistant. Now, that
I
house...
have that on my house in Salt Lake that you saw.
You're kidding me.
Yeah,
That
that's
cute little cottage
asbestos.
I'll never return to now since it's got asbestos. Oh goodness, you wrecked my entire daydream. But the house that had the asbestos, guess what? I had some bad renters in there, and they were
Burned.
intoxicated, and they saw giant cockroaches coming down the fireplace, so they built a big fire, and the house burned down. That was the house that burned down. And yeah, a lot of fun. Okay, well, Doctor, thank you so much for following, leading us down the asbestos happy path. Folks, if you got asbestos, you better call Scott Shaw real quick. We're gonna introduce this guy that both GiGI and I have met vicariously, and we're not vicariously. We have met you on the stage because you are a musician, a guitarist, and you are currently a singer
and vocalist, yeah.
and a vocalist with Dog Park Mondays. Before I get too far, let's introduce Scott Shaw. Welcome to the Doc and Jacques Show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thanks for
you put
coming.
I saw your head kind of nodding when she was kind of telling those asbestos stories.
Right.
You've had your feet on the ground, and you'll get into some of the weird stories and things that you do, getting under houses, going through houses, and getting on the roofs. But before that, let's bring it back to Dog Park Mondays. So how long has Dog Park Mondays been around?
Oh, gosh. We started in the fall of 2023.
Okay.
Not too long after we moved to Crescent City.
Okay.
And been going strong ever since.
Now, do you practice? I know that Veronica Schlesner, who's been on the show multiple times. Hey, Veronica.
Yo.
She lives in Fort Dick area.
Right.
With Steve. Steve's been on the show too. Tell me, where do you guys practice?
We mostly rehearse at my house. I've got a shop with a lot of space, and my sound equipment is out there. And
Cool.
we set up and rehearse, and if it's too cold in there, we just move into the house and
Right on.
go unplugged.
And you've got a special sound. You got a special gig, and the band is comprised of who's on drums?
We got Charlie Perry on drums now.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
he's
then
been with us several months now.
Mr. Bass himself is
Ron Mitchell,
Ron Mitchell, and then your singer is
Veronica Schlesner,
one and only.
the
Right?
one and only.
Yeah, she's quite
Yes,
a
with the voice.
character.
She is energetic, all right.
Right. When are you playing next? Do you know the schedule?
Veronica and I are playing as a duet at the Brookings Elks Lodge on Valentine's Day.
Well,
Wow.
Yeah. So if you're an Elks member or
well, she is.
right, oh,
Yeah.
you should take him on a date.
Right?
Hey, a special thanks to Ray Simon and Tom Bozak in our engineer booth. How are either of you two gentlemen Elks?
Yeah,
Ray. Okay,
Ray's
1 out of
an
2
elk.
is an
All
elk. Okay, so maybe we'll all see you up there.
Right.
Okay,
Okay,
let's get back with Scott Shaw
Let's get back to
here.
Scott Shaw.
Let's
and
do
you
the-
lead off the questions.
Yeah, so all going back, where were you raised? Where are you from? How long have you been here?
Right. Well, originally as a kid, born in Southern California, like a lot of us were, but at a young age, the family moved to Paradise, California, and I consider that my hometown, really, because I spent so many years there, went to all the schools there.
Mountains above Chico.
The mountains above Chico
Yeah.
in Butte County, right.
Cool.
And I feel very fortunate to have been raised there. So much beauty, natural beauty.
Yeah.
I grew up hiking and swimming in the canyons there and had a great life there. Married, had a family, had a business, and was a resident there all the way up till the 2018 Camp Fire,
Wow.
which
So many people
took out 13,000 homes and 85 people died and upended
fire.
the whole county basically. And we needed a place to start over, and our biggest bang for our insurance money was not in California. So we had friends and family out in Nashville, Tennessee area, and we went out there and we found a great home, and we built a life out there for a few years. And loved a lot of things about it, but ultimately we missed our family and we missed
Yeah.
our friends. And most of my family have been in the Crescent City, Brookings area for a long time. So we said, let's give this place a try.
Right, I'll go back to the ocean too.
Yes.
Good thing now. Nashville, where would you live in Nashville proper or just outside?
We were outside southeast a little bit at a little town called Fairview. And
Okay.
what we said about Fairview is 40 minutes to anywhere.
Wow.
You could be all over the Nashville metro area and all kinds of little towns in about 40 minutes.
How did you handle the humidity this summer?
Not well.
Not well. Same with
Not
me,
well.
yeah.
We had a pool, and that's the only thing that saved my bacon, because I melt in the humidity, and
I do
that's one of the things that ultimately led us back to better weather here.
We're both
Yeah,
big
better
guys.
weather, right.
Like
Tomorrow the
us-
rain comes.
Us big guys, we don't like humidity.
No, we don't.
So you are a home inspector.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
what's your title?
Yeah, what's your title? But put in a nutshell, what do you actually do? And don't say inspecting homes.
So I'm a real estate home inspector, which means I primarily focus on inspecting homes that are being bought and sold. We look at all the systems in a house in a general kind of way. We may know a lot about certain systems, but our reports are more generalized in that we take kind of the big picture and we look at everything going on in the house. If we see items, deficiencies that need more of a specialist approach, we will recommend that the buyer contact that specialist for evaluation and repair. So we keep it broader that way. We work for primarily people buying homes, but also sellers often will want to have a home inspection because they don't want any surprises when they go to sell. They want to know what condition the home is in, what can they fix before the sale to make the sale go smoother.
I bought a mobile home type thing, and I had it inspected, actually, and that was the first time I ever had anything inspected, and I was super... There was nobody around here, apparently. I had to go to Eureka somewhere. And I was super impressed about all this stuff. What I wanted was it up to code? That's what I wanted to know. And that was actually not addressed. And he says, that's not what I do, but I do. And it was 30 pages or something.
For the villa?
Yeah, for the blue box.
Oh, my God.
So there were pictures. This is where the electricity and snow were. This is where you would probably have water damage if this doesn't get fixed.
Here's the floors that don't exist. A lot of stuff.
So, and he crawled under it, and he said, there's a cat skeleton under there. So I was impressed with
Well, that's a good point. We are not code inspectors.
Yeah.
We don't quote code unless we know exactly what we're talking about. Because a lot of the homes we inspect, they're older homes, and there have been all sorts of improvements to the building code since, homes built in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Where the way they built them then would not be considered code today.
Right.
And it's ridiculous to say, oh, well, you have to, just because you're buying this house, you have to bring it all up to modern code. That's not going to happen.
I'm thinking off script here, but I would think also where we live. We live on the ocean here in Brookings, Crescent City area. We're on the ocean. That's subject to a whole nother environmental.
Well, the marine environment is hard on homes. The saltwater, we see a lot of corrosion.
Wow. Nothing.
It's hard on roofs.
Yeah. So, Scott, what is your title and what is your company?
Well, I am the owner of Shaw Inspections. I started the company when we moved out here. I was a home inspector. I became a home inspector during the COVID years. After we had moved to Tennessee, I was a painting contractor in Paradise, 35 years or so. And when we moved to Tennessee, I wanted to, it was such a new beginning for us all around. I wanted to try my hand at something different. I had always thought about home inspecting. And during the COVID downtime, I became licensed and certified. And I actually went to work for a couple different home inspectors out there. Primarily Barry Mankin with Four Corners Home Inspections. He really taught me a lot. Pretty much everything that I've learned about home inspecting was through Barry and Four Corners. And so I did a lot of inspecting out there before we moved out to Crescent City, and I started my own company.
So you told us just before the show that your company was called Shaw Inspections. So tell us about another when you came in.
Great story, actually.
I'm sorry, what?
That was a great story about you took over, you started your thing and as a guy was going out, or you buy his business?
Oh, right, right. So Oni Shaw was he owned Wild River Inspections out here. And when I moved to town, I spoke to a lot of real estate agents because they refer me a lot of work. And everyone said, oh, you're a home inspector. That's fantastic. We need a good home inspector. The one we really like is retiring or just retired. And I said, who is that? They said, Oni Shaw. And
Oni.
Shaw, no relation to me, but he was a home inspector out here who thankfully had a good reputation.
Yeah,
and I said, I need to talk to this guy and see what he's doing right. Why do they love him so much?
Yeah.
And he was based here in
contact
Brookings. He was a Brookings-based
I'm not exactly sure. I think he was.
So where do you go? Where do you serve those homes? How far will you travel?
As far south as Klamath, maybe, and as far north as Gold Beach, along the 101 corridor here between Curry County, Del Norte County. That keeps me plenty busy. An hour or so either direction.
Do you need to be certified in the both states, or is that the same?
Yes, I do. It's funny about California, though. So Oregon, I do need a specific state license to be a home inspector, and I've got that. In Tennessee, I needed a specific license to be a home inspector. What's funny about California, for all the strict rules and laws, and people complain about all that in California, California is one of the few states that doesn't require a state license for home inspecting. They just require that I'm certified through a national certification program, which of course I am.
So you were up at Whale's Head today, right? You said you were calling under.
I did three. I inspected 3 of the little cabins up there at Whale's Head.
Or in Brookings, or north of Brookings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's start with a hypothetical house. We're going to scale through this house one section at a time, and you can give a short comment. Just give if you feel like it, or just say, All right, so let's start with the exterior. Of everybody's house, we all have a thing on top of our houses called the roof. How important is a roof, and are you still able to climb up on these roofs and get up there and check them out? Right.
So the roof, so the number one enemy of houses in general is water intrusion. And we're trying to keep it out of our home, and the roof is your very first line of defense against water intrusion. It's important that the roof be in good condition. Asphalt roofs generally last 25 to 30 years. Here, the lifespan can be a bit shorter because of again, we talked about the marine environment, the heavy winds, heavy rain, salty conditions. It can shorten the lifespan of a 30-year roof down to 20 years if there's a lot of wind damage, etc.
No, I had my roof replaced in 22, and I said, I want the lifelong shingles or whatever it's called. And they said, well, it doesn't really matter what you get. The better ones get you 15 years here, even if it says the lifespan of the house. 15 years, you have to change it. I thought it was pretty weird because the shingle price is different.
That's true. They make what they call a presidential roof. It's supposed to be a 50-year roof.
Up here, yeah.
And I've seen them on a few homes, and they are very thick shingles, and they do a great job, but they're considerably more expensive.
Yeah.
Generally, what you find on roofs is the 30-year asphalt shingle roof.
Okay, what about tile? Tile roof, is that the Cadillac?
Tile roof, slate roof. You don't see those out here very often.
Yeah, you don't see our friends.
No, you see the metal.
Smith River.
Metal. You see metal roofs.
How are they? Lifelong?
30 to 50 years.
Oh.
What wears out on the metal roofs before anything are the little rubber gaskets around the screws that hold the metal roofing down. Now, newer designs they actually hide those fasteners so you don't get that exposure. But a lot of metal roofs do have the little rubber gasket on the screws.
Right.
Those will wear out before the roof will.
How about the chimneys?
Chimneys. We get all kinds of here, from brick chimneys to metal chimneys for wood stoves. What happens with those is they often don't have a spark arrestor or a rain cap. The rain here. We're trying to, again, prevent water from entering the home.
That's right.
And so you're just inviting rain in if you have an uncapped chimney or stove vent.
Now, I have 6 skylights or roof thingies, windows in there, and they had to replace 2 of them. I don't know how old they were before I got them, but they said, this is the worst. You don't want to have any skylights here because it's just...
They're 6-foot-long skylights.
Those are big.
They're big, yeah. They're big, yeah.
So they said it's really hard to keep them up, and they will erode at some point.
This is the roofers?
The roofers, yeah.
Right. Well, skylight, let's face it, any penetration through your roof is a potential water entry point. So skylights in particular, the way they're constructed, they have to be flashed so that water, flows around them and down in a way. And there's definitely different levels of quality on the material for skylights. So I think skylights is a place where it's worth spending the money for.
All this water?
So do you go with a little sharp thingy, a sharp instrument, and look if there's air coming through? How do you inspect? Like, you go under the flashing and see, oh, yeah, there's air. I can No, you just look, or
Yeah, it's mostly a visual inspection. Like if we're starting on the outside, I start with the exterior, and I do have a little prodding rod that I'm checking suspicious looking areas for dry rot. Dry rot is a fungus based deterioration that happens when this fungus gets into wet, damp wood. It starts to eat the wood away. The wood deteriorates. More water comes in. It's a
Okay, now all that
feedback.
water coming off that roof goes into gutters. Have they improved gutters recently in the past 10 years, or gutters still just
gutters. It's you see all the ads for the fancy gutter toppers
Right.
and all these kind of things to keep the leaves and debris out and direct the water where you want it. It's to me, it's still just a gutter, and a lot of these toppers basically just dump the water off the roof anyway. I think standard gutters are fine if you keep them clean, and the gutters are really your second line of defense for keeping water out of your home, because they collect the water and then they direct it away from the
Right, the
foundation.
downspouts.
should go away from the house, as we found out.
So, downspouts in pool repair, that's a big deal to us, and we want to see the downspouts extending away from the foundation.
yeah,
Okay, we talked about, ask the
Well-
next question, because we were talking about asbestos. So what's the best?
exterior wall thing,
Tell us about
or do you
exterior wall. What's-
find asbestos? And if you do you tell them don't touch it, or what do you say?
So they have used over the years asbestos, like you mentioned, in many different types of building products, from exterior siding, shingles. It sounds like you had a house that had that. Insulation around ducting, ceiling tiles, floor tiles.
Wow.
They've used it in so many different places. And the thing about asbestos is, as you sort of touched on, if you don't disturb it, it's probably not as big of a danger. It's when
Right.
it's when you create the dust
Yeah.
through construction or repairs, when it gets
Demolition.
airborne, demolition. Once it's airborne and you're breathing it, that's the danger.
Now, do you wear masks if you go in for asbestos or other things?
Right. When I'm under a house, I always wear a respirator, because you don't know if you're going to come across asbestos. But mostly under a house, it's dust. It's mold spores, wet conditions, and I just don't want all that in my lungs. So I wear a full-on face respirator under the house.
It was interesting. You heard last week's show that we had Paul Ministries on. We were talking a lot about mold. That's when we touched base. And so when you're underneath the houses, you're seeing. Let's back it up. We were on the walls. We're going to get to the foundation and everything. We were on the walls, foundation, asbestos. How about decks and fences? Okay, do you check decks? And decks are part of the house, right?
Yeah, decks. Decks are more important to us than fences, because decks people walk on and they can be a safety issue, right? Fences divide you from the neighbors and keep the dogs in or out. So often fences are lower on our priority. We're going to call that out if there's damage, if we see the damage. But decks, we want to make sure that they are supported well, that there's no rot. The biggest failure point on decks is the attachment to the house.
Railing or okay.
No,
house,
it's where it actually attaches to the house, and over the years they have moved away from attaching decks directly to the house to making decks self-supporting, just because there's so much failure at the attachment points from bolting, nailing, whatever. Again, water intrusion. Water gets between the deck and the house at the ledger board there, and causes rot.
Very interesting. Now, okay, when you say this deck is going to fall apart if you don't do this, do you have somebody when they say, can you suggest somebody who can help with that? Or do you work with somebody, or do you say, I cannot do that?
It might be considered some sort of, maybe collusion's the wrong word, but if I go recommending specific people, it might be that we're working hand in hand or something. So I basically say, talk to your realtor. Your realtor's going to know good carpenters, good contractors, some good contacts. I will recommend the type of specialist to call, but I'll generally, unless I know somebody really well and I know their work, I'm going to let the realtor make that reference.
All right.
Now,
We're at
the driveway vegetation trees,
Yeah.
does that belong to what you do to inspect?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, shucks. Okay, sorry. You go
All right.
mid-break.
1 minute. I
Oh
have to
my
take a
gosh.
mid-break break here. Time flies when we're having fun,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Absolutely.
I've been telling you this for a while.
I didn't know what you meant. Sorry.
It's already that mid-break time here on the Doc and Jacques Live Radio Show, proudly broadcasting from the KCIW 100.7 FM LP studios in lovely coastal Brookings, Oregon. The list of major supporters for your community radio station are, as of now, Advanced Airlines. We're flying in and out of nearby Crescent City to Oakland and L.A. Happens 7 days a week. Marie and Brett Curtis, our next-door neighbors at Remax Coast and Country. We have Dr. John Kirks and your colleague, Doctor, right,
Yeah.
at the Port of Pines Craft Brewery, now in 2 locations in Crescent City. Michelle Bupert, our friend over at the vibrant local Curry County Chamber of Commerce. Hello, Michelle. And everybody's friend, Jim Doc Bellardi, who owns the Crescent Land Title and Escrow Company. Dan and Phyllis Schmidt are our major supporters, and thanks for their constant friendly support. Almost finished. There's the new reimagined Crescent Harbor Art Gallery in Crescent City. It's anchored in the harbor right next to the boats. And then also a new one, Tsunami Lanes, our region's only bowling center. It's located in Midtown Crescent City on 101. Nick and Lisa Rail. Wow, big names for all of us who are bringing us the new, our region's $50 million event center to be known as PPA, or the Partnership for the Performing Arts. And I think Nick said that they spade the first shovel next year at this
June
time.
or something, right?
Right. Also, the medical team of Dr. J, Dr. Palak, and Rochita Patel at Chetco Medical and Aesthetic Center in Harbor, and possibly, well, she's okay. We might be, some other doctor might be joining them soon. And lastly, my very dear co-host, Dr. GiGI Reed, and yours truly, Jacques Kepner. On behalf of KCIW, I want to thank all of you for your major sponsor and support. Okay, we're back in the studio with Scott Shaw, who is the founding president and owner of Scott Inspections. Shaw
Inspections.
Shaw
Inspections.
Inspections,
Okay.
yes.
You were talking about driveways, but I was going to say pools. Do you ever inspect pools? Is that part?
That's a separate specialty inspection.
Okay.
Inspection. You can add on all kinds of credentials to a regular inspection license and become qualified to inspect pools, but there's not enough of those
don't have
out
any
here
here, really. Yeah.
to worry about that.
And how about the vegetation? Now, I saw at the LA fire down there, the Palisade fire, that there was one house that wasn't touched, and everything out there was touched because they had a cement wall and no vegetation. Mm-hmm. So, do you point that out? Do you talk about vegetation at all?
I do, particularly if there's vegetation encroaching, touching, overhanging the home. Again, not so much a fire danger in our coastal climate here, but what it is a path for insects and pests to get into the home.
Do we have termites here?
We do have termites, right?
Yeah, we got termites.
Yes.
Termites and cockroach? No, we don't have. I had cockroaches in Louisiana. I had never seen one. Oh my gosh! I about barfed.
Okay. All right.
Do we have cockroaches here?
Let's move this to the interior.
have cockroaches?
We're coming there. We got termites covered. We're covering termites, but I want to quickly now turn to the interior home when you step into these homes. And let's start at the top. What do many homes in this area, Brookings? I know they do. Some have attics. What's going on in an attic?
Well, when I go into an attic, the first thing I look at is the framing structure. We want to make sure that the roof is framed correctly. We want to make sure that the attic is well ventilated. People often underestimate what good ventilation does for an attic. Good ventilation clears that hot air out of your attic. It cools your home. It will extend the life of your roof if the attic is well ventilated, because we don't have that heat buildup under there. And people's insulation in their ceiling often blocks any ventilation at the eaves. Sometimes the homes just are not built with adequate ventilation, so we point out that.
You got to squeeze through those small holes, like are usually in a bathroom closet or someplace. They're really weird.
Yes, bedroom closets where there's a shelf full of
Yeah.
whatever, and
That's where you go
I'm
through.
lucky to get my head and shoulders in the attic sometimes.
Wow, you're a big guy, right? I mean, you're tall like myself, right?
right,
So
right.
it'd be kind of weird.
How about electrical, gas?
Yeah, electrical, gas, a big thing, right?
Well, if you're talking about in the attic, sometimes you'll find those components in the attic, open junction boxes and stray
Yeah.
wires. We see that in attics, and always point that out. We
Yeah.
don't want to see that.
You see, have you like prevented houses from burning down by doing an inspection?
I'd like to think that I've
Yeah.
prevented some damage to homes by, because I've seen some pretty bad conditions.
Yeah. Now, gas and electrical being opposites, but they both give us energy, our home's energy.
Mm-hmm.
So, how important is each? Some houses don't have gas. Our house has what? Both gas.
We have
and
gas and electricity
Oh, we
and
got
oil
kerosene.
or
Yeah, we got
kerosene.
kerosene.
Yeah.
Right. It's here in Brookings. There is natural gas. I believe through the town. I've seen it. There's propane tanks down in Crescent City. We see a lot of fuel oil.
That's a kerosene.
Old oil burning or kerosene burning stoves, but there's no natural gas pipe through the city. So if you have gas in your home, it's generally going to be through a propane tank that you have to
the
have
big one.
filled.
Now, do you go with a little measure and see if it's leaking, or do you just go into the house and see what's in the house?
Right. I don't have the specialized tool that they call it a gas sniffer. It's an electronic device that goes through. I do not have that, but if I smell gas at any of the connections, and I do visually look at each connection, and if I smell gas at all, I'm going to
All right.
report
Now,
on that.
speaking of sniffing, we got a big one: sewer system. Right? It's a sewer system. You got to check the sewer system, right? I mean, or how do you go about that?
Right.
Flush the toilets.
Again, mostly a visual inspection. A septic tank inspection is a separate inspection from home. That's so specialized. I mean, the guys have to come dig up the cover to the tank and go in there and all
Try
that.
to find it first.
They
where
got to
it is.
find it. So septic is generally a separate inspection. Some home inspectors have a fancy piece of equipment called a sewer scope that they can snake down the sewer lines and look for any blockages or roots. But the septic inspection guys can do that as well. So that's an area that I haven't got into myself. If it's a city, hookup for the septic lines, city utility,
Sewer,
it's not such a big deal. But septic tanks, you have to be careful what you flush down there. They have to be maintained and cleaned out, pumped out now and then.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to have to open up the windows to let all that bad smell out. Tell us about windows.
Windows, where you see all kinds. We see everything from old plate glass in some of the older homes, especially down in Crescent City. Single pane plate glass, which is very dangerous. If you were ever to break it, it's the kind that shatters into big shards.
Nice.
Most modern windows are double paned, but we do see the old single pane wooden windows occasionally. Modern windows are so much more energy efficient. We like to see those. The biggest issue I see with windows is the thermal seal breaking
It's broken.
up.
Right.
Broken,
They
and
get
that's what gives
foggy.
you the cloudy, foggy look.
Yeah.
And it decreases the window's energy efficiency to a certain degree, but mostly it just looks bad. And unfortunately, the only real fix is to replace the
Replace
window.
them.
Go get a hold of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, do you check for lead paint? It's not really that big of a problem anymore.
Well, he's a former painter, too.
Right.
So you're-
Right. So the thing about lead paint is they did outlaw its use in homes after 1978.
Right, yeah.
So if it's a home older than 1978, there's a pretty good chance that somewhere down among the layers of paint, there's some lead paint. And much like asbestos, the thing about lead paint is if you don't disturb it, it's not really an issue.
Right. It's an issue when the babies eat
Why
it. Or
would they put
clump-
lead in paint, though? I mean, do you know why? Why
rub.
was it
It
cheap?
I should know more about lead paint.
Extend the life, or is it going smoother?
An extender, a colorant.
Yeah.
It was just a main ingredient because it had some qualities that really made the paint.
So it's only when it starts
Last.
chipping, and you always think of the little kid
Kids
chewing on the
eating,
tip
yeah.
of
Chewing on the windowsill, right.
with their
Yeah.
mouth and eating,
Yeah, I mean,
eating the big
kids' babies
flakes.
are still tested for it. They're
Right.
We're still thinking.
Let's get
Right.
down.
So if I suspect that there's lead paint, it's going to go in the report that you could have this tested if you want, and if I see lead in other areas, but particularly paint and asbestos as well, we always have the option to take a sample and have it lab tested.
Okay. So there's not like a little swiper and then it lights up.
There's no instant test for that.
I see.
Okay, so when you walk into a house, you hear, if you start hearing a lot of creaks, when you're walking, you hear creak, creak, creak. That might tell you some things. Subflooring and carpet. And then carpet can also harbor molds.
Oh, yeah.
It certainly can.
So what's your
molds,
deal
spores,
on
dust.
subflooring and carpets?
Right. So flooring, if you hear the creaking, it's generally going to be they didn't install the subfloor correctly. They didn't glue it down, or they used the wrong kind of nails.
It got wet.
It got wet, it expanded, and now the nails are loose, and now the floor is creaking. And you see people try to fix this with wedges or foam. We'll be under a house, and you'll see where they took expanding foam and just ran it all around. And it is effective. It will work. Those kind of things will work to decrease creaking.
But you'll find it because you'll be inspecting.
How about stairs? Stairs have to follow a certain code, right? They can't be too steep.
They're supposed to be at a certain angle. They're supposed to be what they call the rise and the run of the treads and the risers. They have to be certain heights and depths, not too steep. We see it not only inside of houses, but we deal with stairs and steps a lot on decks. They need to have proper handrails.
Yeah.
They need to be the what they call the stringers, or the wood that supports the treads that you walk on. Those have to be attached to the deck or to the home's framing a certain way, a secure way, because a lot of use over time, weather, etc.
Yeah, especially the exterior stairs. We have visited
steps.
several homes in the area recently, looking at homes.
Yeah.
And the realtor said, can't go up the stairs.
Don't use these.
Don't use those stairs.
Yeah,
And
they have
look-
it barred with a
Yeah.
wooden plank or
The bottom
something.
of the steps on an exterior, you'll often see them embedded or sort of flooded with dirt and earth, and that's just asking for rot and termites. And
Well, how about basements?
And HVAC. Heating, cooling, and...
heating and cooling. It's funny. In Tennessee, where I started inspecting, HVAC systems were you just had to have it.
Right.
You had to have air conditioning in the summer. You have to have heating in the winter, and whether it's electric or gas driven, you just had to have a good functioning HVAC system. Out here, it's a milder climate, and
true.
And I see plenty of homes that have no air conditioning at all.
I have an air conditioner. I have used it once for just to try it out in 4 years.
Right. And at first I was kind of mortified. Like, what? This home doesn't have air conditioning. And then I realized, well, very few do, because when it's hot on the days where it actually does get hot, you open a window and
marine
Right.
environment,
fine.
right? There we
Marine
go.
environment. So heat becomes much more important. And so there's a lot of manufactured homes in the area. That's another thing we could talk about. But manufactured homes, they generally come with an electric forced air furnace. Electric furnaces are notoriously inefficient with today's energy prices, but they do a great job of heating a home very quickly. You just don't want to run them for hours on end. And so what we see a lot of now is companies are installing heat pumps or mini split systems,
Right.
the ductless heat pumps. There's an air handler on the wall. There's a little unit outside. And what a heat pump does is take whatever heat that there may be in the outside air, even during colder temperatures, and it collects that heat and it transfers it into the home. And they're so much more energy efficient than a big forced air electric furnace that I always recommend looking into a heat pump system.
Wow. Yeah. So in Germany, we were just there, and everybody had to switch, I think, to a heat pump, to something that
More
it had to be
economical.
replaced. I mean, this is amazing, probably energy efficiency, but
Yeah.
they just had to
You
do it.
check the
Very
water
sad.
heater, I guess. So always give.
Oh,
an
of course,
inspection.
we check several items on a water heater. We're looking for proper shut-off valves, earthquake strapping. Every water heater should have a pressure safety
Right.
valve on it, and
Right on.
that has to be routed correctly down and away from the water heater. We're looking at the age of the water heater. Your average water heater, the industry says has a life of 12 to 15 years. My feelings personally on water heaters is I will use it until it stops working and then replace it. But if you maintain your water heater by draining it and cleaning out the sediment, you will get a lot of years out of a water heater before you need to replace it.
I've seen the red gunk that comes out of amazing. All right, we have about 15 minutes left to show, but we have a break at the end where we do our Fun Time Corner. We're talking with Scott Shaw and Shaw Inspections. He is a home inspector. He's been filling us in right down the list of exterior and interior things that he sees. But now let's move on. We were going to touch base on termites, but I want to fast forward this. What is the most common problem that you experience in these homes? Is it, like you said, water damage? Is it?
It's almost always related to water. Out here, especially where, again, the marine environment, lots of rain, water causing... It penetrates the siding, it penetrates the roof, it penetrates the attic, rot, mold, mildew.
Right.
Indoor air quality is a big deal, and so we can also do a mold inspection to determine the type of mold that's present. Is it the dangerous kind? How much of it?
Roxas or something.
Yeah.
How much of it is present in the home? And I have an air sampling pump that can take those kind of samples. We send it off to a lab. And in a couple of days, they email back a report and say, "Here's your air quality."
Wow,
okay.
Very cool.
What about strange things that you have seen? Do you see stranger things up in the attic occasionally, or do you find them in the basement when you're crawling under a house?
I've seen strange things everywhere. It's interesting being in the older houses are the. I love inspecting really old houses, and in Tennessee, I inspected lots of old 125-year-old farmhouses where you go underneath, and the house is constructed and supported by tree stumps, boulders. It's resting on boulders. It's a stacked rock foundation, and that's what they did back. That's what they had. That's the material, and you have to look at that and say, it's still functional. It's still standing. It's that foundation's doing its job. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't do it that way today, but guess what? You have a functional foundation.
Yeah, we didn't get to foundations because I guess with this kind of marine, it could lead to cracking and unsettling soft earth through the rain.
Yes.
And there's some problems there.
What is the worst part of doing a home inspection?
What's the worst part?
Oh, for me personally?
Yeah.
Going in the crawl space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you on your own? You don't have a helper? A small helper?
I do have I occasionally have a helper, but by and large, it's just me doing the inspections, and many homes around here have very small, tight crawl spaces, and sometimes due to blockages by ducting or pipes or fallen insulation or just low clearances, you can't inspect every inch of a crawl space. I would like to. I want to get my eyes on everything that's down there, but sometimes it's just physically impossible. And you just have to let your clients know that you couldn't get to all of it. But it's I'm not a claustrophobic person under a crawl space. In a crowd of people, I'm claustrophobic, but put me in under a house and I'm okay.
Well, I would think spiders, man. You see we have black widows up here. We got it. We got them.
We do. I take a stick with me sometimes, and if I look in a crawl space and it's particularly dicey looking and a lot of webs, and it just looks creepy under there, man. I will bring a stick to fend off critters, which I have seen.
You've seen some
What's
unusual
the worst critter you have seen?
Kind of
bear?
No bears.
Bear.
I've run a
skunk.
The biggest surprise I had was a black cat staring at me from up under a beam.
And he was
right in my face. I mean, he was like inches from me, so that scared me. I've run across snakes.
Yeah,
I've run across spiders, but I've never had anything like come up and try to bite me. I've seen raccoons that made me a little nervous.
Yeah.
Right? A little bit. How about, have you seen things you shouldn't have seen by opening up some closet or going someplace and, I shouldn't have seen that.
We inspect many homes that are fully furnished and they're still occupied. And, it's our job to put our eyes on every square inch of the house. So that means we do open closets. And sometimes you see things that you wish you hadn't seen, private things. We just move on past those things. weird things you see. I once did a home where the basement had been, it was a retired dentist, and he had converted his whole basement into a functional antique dentist office.
Oh,
Wow, cool.
With the chair and all the old
Whoa,
instruments.
nice.
It was strange.
It looked like a torture chamber.
We got to have you back on again to really go down the list of crazy things you see. But I'm gonna skip way ahead because we just got a couple minutes now, and that is, what's it cost for a home inspection? Or are they all different? Does it all vary?
Every company does it a little differently, and I base mine on a few different factors. I have software that does the calculations, and we base it on how far do I have to travel, what year was the house built. Older homes are going to have more problems inherently, and what's the square footage of the house. So those things all factor together to give you the exact price. But if you average all that out, the average home inspection around here does seem to run somewhere between $450 up to $550, with exceptions on either side of that.
My last one I had was years ago. It's $300, so it'd be in par, and it's usually the buyers that are paying for it, but you say not always.
I work for the buyer. They're the ones paying for it. They're the ones that get the information. They can do with that what they want. If they want to share that information with the realtor, with the seller, they can do what they want with it. But
how about your GiGI? Asked him that question there. That's a good one. What are your tools? What is your what are your basic tools you use?
Do you take pictures? I want to know.
Yeah. My cell phone and the camera. I will take
Flashlight.
Anywhere between 200 and 500 photos on every inspection.
Yeah.
And not all of those make it into the report. Some are for my reference only, but we take a lot of photos and document everything.
Wow.
I have moisture meters. I have
You have a stick for the spider.
Several flashlights.
A flashlight, probably.
Flashlight, yeah.
Electronic testers, circuit testers.
Do you have a flashlight that goes around the corner?
No, he has one on his head.
I have one on my head generally.
Oh.
Yeah, we got one under there. All right. How do people get a hold of Scott Shaw and in your company's Shaw Inspections?
Shaw Inspections, a few different ways. You can call me.
Okay. What's your number?
I've got a front office phone number, which it's a call center, and for the life of me, I can't remember.
All right,
that.
that's okay. It happens. We go quite a bit.
I have a number you can reach me directly at, and that's my cell number at 530-521 7294.
Are you pretty much the only guy doing this up here now? Company doing this, or are there other? You have some competitors that are.
I do have some competitors up here. Not many. They're other inspectors in Brookings, Gold Beach area.
Okay, cool. And you could contact Scott Shaw directly at 530-521. 7294. What about Facebook and social media?
Internet. I've got a website.
Yep.
Tell us the website.
That is shawinspections.net.
SHAW inspections.net.
Okay. We are there. I think we've covered it, Scott. I mean, when is you're playing music, you're a guitarist, you've been doing that for a long time. You're really a skilled guitarist, and
thank you,
and
Jeff.
if you do quite as well as you play music
and the harmonizing,
if you do that as well as you do your home inspections, you've got my business. When I go to sell a house, have you ever encountered a ghost?
I've been in homes that seemed very creepy, but I'm open to the kind of supernatural stuff, but I must say that I've never really run across anything that made me feel like, this is a ghost. No,
I cannot tell anybody about it.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Scott Shaw, for being on the Doc and Jacques show.
Super cool.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. Okay, Doc, what do we got? We got Fun Time Corner. These jokes and quotes are especially just for all of you listening out there. What do we have in the quote? You start off things.
Okay, I only have a few. You have a gazillion jokes.
I do. Where are they? I don't see them. Hold on. Okay, I got them now. All right.
Okay, well, I give you a quote. Okay, so I have to tell you, I looked up asbestos quotes, so there aren't that many.
I would assume not. Thank goodness.
As a career, the business of an Orthodox preacher is about as successful as that of a celluloid dog chasing an asbestos cat through hell.
Okay, it was a long one. Oh no, it was good. It was good. I'll never remember it, but that's okay. You know, I told Scott, I told Dr. GiGi that she should embrace her mistakes, so she gave me a hug.
Yeah, you'll get a big one.
I'm gonna get in trouble. Dr. GiGi calls me a skeptic. Ha ha! I don't believe a word she says. Okay, guess another one, Doc.
I'm the bestest. On a bad day, I spit asbestos.
That's your quote? I'm asbestos?
Is that a joke or a quote?
It's a quote. I'm the bestest. On a bad day, I spit asbestos.
Whoa, how very interesting.
Well, I didn't make the quotes. I just find
Dr.
them.
GiGi told me, well, of course, she's a doctor, but she told me that she had a patient that swallowed a frog. And what happened this morning? He croaked, right? Hey, Dr. GiGi.
Not funny.
Did you hear about that new book on constipation?
Huh.
Well, it hasn't come out yet.
These are all long.
I haven't talked to Dr. GiGi in over a week. I didn't want to interrupt her.
That is so untrue.
Okay, give us another quote. Asbestos quotes.
The psyche is highly flammable material, so we're always wrapping things in asbestos, keeping our images and fantasies at arm's length because they are so full of love.
Okay, another one of those long ones. I kind of got lost, but not bad. Asbestos quotes. Okay, she's pointing at me. Let's see. Dr. GiGi complains that I'm a know-it-all.
Yeah.
Heck, I already knew that. Shoot.
That should be a quote.
Yeah, you know. Dr. GiGi says that I have a tendency to be vengeful. Vengeful? We'll see about that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I haven't made our engineers, Ray or Tom. Okay, any more? Wait. Oh,
Yeah.
You're taking it from me.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
So
where's my list? Okay, we got a list here. We got all this paper. All right, here it goes. Do you know what flat earthers fear the most?
what?
Sphere itself.
I don't get it.
Wow.
I didn't get it when I put that in there.
Wow.
Scott,
That is wild.
do you
Flat
get
earther,
it?
what do flat earthers fear the most? Sphere, S-P-H-E-R-E.
I know. What is the other
And
word?
Ray Simon's shaking his head. He's not happy with that joke.
Nope. Your jokes are not
Hey,
very
did you? I used to have a great joke about trickle-down economics,
good. Yeah.
but 99% of the folks didn't get it.
That's a good one.
Okay, give us another quote.
He is warm-hearted. I should think he has to wear asbestos vests.
Okay, finally, something I associate with wearing vests. I love vests. Asbestos, that's pretty cool. Warm-hearted. Dr. GiGi doesn't like it that I am so mysterious. Or am I?
I need to find your jokes next time.
What? I thought these were pretty darn... I don't leave a carbon footprint. I drive everywhere.
That one is a good one.
Okay, give us one more. We're done? Wait a minute, we're done too
done.
early. We're going to go back to Scott Shaw here on Doc and Jacques. The Doc and
Well,
Jacques show.
Jacques, your constipation joke did remind me of another joke.
Yeah.
Oh, is it clean?
It's a clean
Okay,
joke. Yes. But my last week my dog ate a box of Scrabble tiles, and we took him to the vet. No word yet.
Now
Look at the engineers are giving you a thumbs up. They're giving
Right.
and, all right, indecisiveness is my new favorite word. But actually, no, it's not. Okay, I think we're about it. Where are we, Doc? Do we have any more?
No, I'm done listening to you.
We have over a minute left, though.
Well,
Okay, back
you
to
were the
Scott.
one-
Any more ghost stories?
Not a one.
Folks, thank you so much for listening to the show. It's been fun. We thought
Yeah,
about
Scott
it.
Shaw, home
inspector, that's-
inspections, super cool, very
Totally cool.
interesting.
And-
Jackie was a little bit hasting through these questions. I would have loved to hear more.
We had plenty of other questions for him. Scott Shaw's direct number is 530-521-7294. Okay, Doc, where are we going to go next?
We are going to the exit. We
Okay.
are at the end of our show with Scott Shaw. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Doc and Jacques on KCIW LP 100.7 FM in Brookings, Oregon. We hope you have enjoyed our show minus the jokes as much as we have.
They were that bad, darn it. We also wish to thank once again Tom Bozak, Ray Simon for their engineering wizardry, and the KCIW studios. Lastly, if you know or know of, if you are or know of a fascinating local character, please let us know, and they may be on this show. You can go to Jacques Kepner, Kepner, on Facebook and friend us. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks, Scott.